America. The German company that manufactures these products opened up an American office in Charlotte about 6 years ago, and so they're easily bought here. And there's a few American iconographers who know how to use them, and there's many Russian iconographers that can be imported also who know how to use them. But it'll give you the look of an actual old world church interior, meaning that the plaster will be hand applied, so it's got thickness to it and rounded corners and that organic texture that real plaster has, and where the paint looks like it's actually sort of transparently bonded into the plaster rather than looking like it's a film on top of the plaster like you typically see in American churches painted with acrylic. So it'll just give you a much finer, more medieval aesthetic.
Can you tell us a little bit more about our church? I mean, you were saying it's Victorian Gothic.
Yeah. Well, the style of your church would properly be termed Victorian Gothic, but that can mean a lot of different things. More specifically, your church is it's kind of arts and crafts style. There was an architect prevalent in the 1860s in England named Philip Webb, who designed William Morris's house. It's called the Red House at Bexley Heath, and he kind of invented a style of English Gothic revival that's sort of cute and fairy tale like, and relates more to like old thatched cottages than it does to English cathedrals. So he tended to build buildings out of red brick with thatched roofs and small windows, and just cute and cottagey and English country style of work, and that his work is what your church sort of most closely imitates. It's kind of a fairy tale interpretation of the 14th century English country architecture. Yeah, so if your church were in England, it would be termed Arts and Crafts Gothic. It's kind of an uncommon style in America. Not many American churches look that way, so American art historians don't really use that term. But that's kind of what it's relating to, is just kind of a charming Victorian vision of the 14th century English countryside.
Could you talk about the idea of modular building of the parish hall? Build some now and then more later.
Well, the problem with that is, for one thing, it would greatly increase your construction costs. Building it in 2 phases would cost dramatically more than building it all at once. And because of what I mentioned about how any new construction requires really extensive environmental permitting relating to ground disturbance and erosion control and drainage and so forth, the bureaucratic hassle of building twice rather than once is really quite something. And furthermore, it's very difficult in the life of a small parish to do 2 building phases in close proximity. Usually when a church goes through a capital campaign and a building project, it saps a great deal of energy out of the church. Everybody who has to work on the project is typically pretty fed up with each other by the end of it, and is fed up with the amount of time they've had to donate to make it happen. And once it's done, they just don't want to do that again. So the pattern of capital campaigns and building projects in a parish is typically that they happen once a generation. If you manage to build a building without destroying your parish, you're probably not going to manage to do it again until 30 or 40 years later, when it's a whole different crop of people. So for all these reasons, I don't think you should really plan on modular parish hall construction in the near term.
But you mentioned a price that we should consider of $200 to $250 a square foot.
Yeah.
The price going down, the more we add.
Yeah. So the more you build, the less it'll cost per square foot. Just because there's economy of scale, there's fixed site work costs, and also just the fact that the expensive parts of the building are the kitchen and the bathrooms, and once you design a parish hall, it's got all that expensive stuff. It's got its heating system, it's got its kitchens and bathrooms, it's got its entry door with all its expensive handicapped accessible hardware and all that. You know, once you've got all that expensive stuff, you know, whether the actual like dining room is 40 feet long or 50 feet long actually makes very little difference to the cost of the building. So yeah, you might be looking at, if you try to build a little parish hall where you squeeze all of that stuff into 1,500 square feet, it's probably going to cost $300 a square foot. But if you build a parish hall that's 3,000 square feet, it's probably going to cost $200 a square foot.
So we've had people asking us, like, how many Sunday school rooms can we build?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, because you all have to tell me what you realistically think your budget for this construction work is going to be, and it may be that you don't know that until we draw something and see how your benefactors react. So I may have to start out drawing. I may have to somewhat arbitrarily just choose something that I'm going to draw first, and then you'll have to, show it to people and see if anyone want to make major gifts for it. And once you see whether they do or not, we may decide to scale it up or down accordingly. We also need to get a handle on what the site work costs are. You're going to need to get your local architect and your local civil engineer involved relatively early in the process, so that they can start investigating the environmental rules relating to drainage and ground and water control and so forth, and start figuring out how many parking spaces you have to develop and what kind of paving surfaces the authorities are going to require you to use, and start getting a handle on whether the sort of fixed site work development costs are going to be $100,000 or $300,000.
And that's in addition to the actual per square foot cost of the parish hall?
Well, that's,
or
it's hard to answer that question, because sometimes when people talk about the per square foot cost of a building, they're talking about just the building proper, but other times they're talking about the whole project, including the site work. So it depends on who you ask how they answer that question. But I've seen projects where site work costs can be disastrous, because there's environmental regulations that you're not allowed to create any additional water runoff that gets directed on other people's property, and therefore you have to build a detention pond to hold all of the water that you're creating with your new roof surface, and it just depends on the nature of your property and the local rules. So a civil engineer will have to investigate all that for you.
So this is what will be. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, with the parking, that's going to be a challenge, isn't it? Because sometimes when I've gone over there on a Sunday to pick up and drop something, put something in storage in the chapel, you have all the people from that neighboring building taking up a lot of space, and heaven forbid, you also have a cemetery. They will fill up their cars and light up all the road. The only parking you have is there's 3 spots by the porta potty, 3 or 4 spots by the porta potty out there.
Well, I think you're going to have a frank discussion with your condo association about who's really allowed to park where. If
when they do funerals, they walk up from the home. They don't. The only thing that goes there is a hearse.
I've been up there on a Sunday morning. It doesn't happen often, but I've seen them line all, right along the cemetery, mm-hmm. and on our side. They won't park in the 3 spots by the porta potty, but it doesn't happen.
That's the Spanish people. We can talk to them. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping.
They're just there because we're not there.
Yeah, I'm hoping you'll find that you're allowed to just pull cars off of the driveways surrounding your lot.
And we would actually build little spots there for
that? Yeah, you'd have to, I don't mean park on the grass,
yeah.
but actually replace the grass with some kind of permeable grid paving system that lets the grass grow back through it, but works as car parking. And yeah, you designate the spots, and you can put up a sign that says, Holy Apostles parking only and all that.
We actually own that little road that goes by the cemetery. Yeah. That was part of the gift. So
they're parking there because we're not there to stop them.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Yeah.
But
then there's also the historic road.
Yeah. The first thing I'm going to need to do once I start really working on this in earnest is examine a a detailed survey of your property where I can see truly where your property extends to and what kind of easements and setbacks and stuff around the perimeter you may have to accommodate, so we'll get into that.
Any other questions?
Thanks a lot. God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
very
I'll
much.
hang out for a while longer if anyone wants to talk to me more. I've got an iPad here where I can show pictures of my work, or so feel free to chat.
Make him show you his house.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you.